It's time for Grizz Beat, a full court press of highlights, insights, news, and scoops covering the Grizzlies and the NBA. Catch up each week on the latest Grizz buzz with regional and national insiders locked in on our squad. Running point from Grind City Media Studios, our host, Jarvis Greer.
Hey everybody, it is finally here. NBA Draft Day, otherwise known as Christmas in June. Yeah, that's when all the teams look to see what Santa has left them under the tree and what they'll get on draft night up in Brooklyn, New York at the Barclays Center, where it will all go down tonight. We are right here in the studios of Grind City Media, 191 Beale Street, right across from FedEx Forum. And we've, as always, got a great panel here to talk about what might, could, and what we foresee could happen tonight, as well as other things going on in the association. Joining us from the Daily Memphian, we have got man, I tell you what, you've been busy. You have been really busy. Drew Hill, wow, he's coming in. He's got bags under his eyes. He just moved. You've been painting, you've been moving, and we all know what a pain that is.
Yeah, moving, painting, getting ready for baby to come later this year.
Man, so congratulations on that.
Life has been a little crazy. If I've been a little bit more quiet on the work front, that's why. But it's draft night, baby, so I'm ready to jump back in.
Jump back in, indeed. And also joining us here in studio, we have got the one and only Colin Cody from News Channel 3, the weekend anchor, and you got the goodie thing, good to go on the shirt right there. What's that? You got the M on the hat? Loving it, man.
M-Town always. So,
always.
I've been moving too this week, so I'm not as nearly as busy as Drew though. Because he got babies on the way. So.
Okay, yeah. Well, somebody who's on the move will join us a little bit later live is the great Michael Wallace, the guru of Grind City Media. He is up in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center, site of tonight's draft. But he did, before he went behind the curtains where everything is happening, he did leave us with this scene setter when he first got to New York to tell us what we can expect for tonight. Here's Michael Wallace.
Just when you thought you left the sweltering temperatures behind in Memphis, New York City was waiting right with the 100-plus degree temperatures right here. But the Memphis Grizzlies are hoping that the hot options continue to be available when they enter the NBA draft starting Wednesday night with the number 16 overall pick. There will be little intrigue as to who will go number 1 overall in the NBA draft. That's going to be Cooper Flagg, who's earmarked to go to the Dallas Mavericks, who will make the first selection overall. But ESPN draft expert Jonathan Givony says that the draft will flatten out in terms of talent, lottery-bound talent, once you get to about picks number 8 all the way to 20. Smack dab in the middle of that range will be the Memphis Grizzlies. They got the number 16 pick as part of a massive haul that they landed in that trade that sent Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic a couple of weeks ago for 4 first-round picks, a couple of pick swaps, and 2 players in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Cole Anthony. Now, the Grizzlies have optionality and flexibility. I spoke to 3 players who confirmed that they've either interviewed or worked out with the Grizzlies in recent days. And that list includes Washington State swingman Cedric Coward, who Givony has slated to go to the Grizzlies with the number 16 overall pick in his latest ESPN mock draft. Now, Coward told me that he worked out for the Grizzlies on Monday, flew up to New York afterwards, and had a great time showcasing his skill set to the Grizzlies coaches and front office. Now, part of that skill set included 1-on-0 action because Coward is coming off of a shoulder injury that required surgery that ended his season after just 6 games at Washington State. But he's an intriguing 3-and-D guy who shot almost 40% from the three-point range over his 3 seasons, and his story is very similar to that of Grizzlies rookie Jalen Wells. Now, beyond that, French big man Johan Beringer confirmed that he worked out with the Grizzlies as well, too. Now, he had a connection and a rapport with Grizzlies' new coach, Tuomas Isalo, during his workout with Memphis. Beringer is a 6'11" guy who's drawn comparisons at this stage of his game at 19 years old to a young Jaren Jackson Jr. and Miles Turner of the Indiana Pacers. And also, Nick Clifford. He's the veteran, more so the veteran of the group from Colorado State. That was the Colorado State team that knocked off the Memphis Tigers in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Clifford is considered one of the most versatile prospects among the mid-first round players that will be taken in this draft. So where do the Grizzlies go? They definitely want to address some needs that they have for backcourt depth in terms of after losing Desmond Bane, but also some front court issues with the starting center, Zach Edey, recovering from his ankle surgery that will carry him into the season on the sideline. So the Grizzlies have plenty of options. They have plenty of intrigue going into this draft. One thing we do know, they also have a track record and a history of hitting on these picks. Last year, the Grizzlies walked away from the NBA draft with not one, but two all-rookie first-team picks in Edey and Jalen Wells. We'll see what the Grizzlies do from Barclays Center right here on Wednesday night. Keep it locked on all of our action, and be sure to watch our Grind City Media draft show presented by.
All right, thank you, Mike Wallace, up there in New York. He'll be joining us live in our second block right here on Grizz coming up in a little bit. But as Michael said, the Grizzlies have 3 picks in this draft, thanks to a lot of wheeling dealing by King Kleiman, Zach Kleiman, the Grizz general manager. Pick number 16 in the first round. That was a total surprise, going along with the picks that they already had, pick number 48 and pick number 56. So, a lot of wheeling and dealing going on in that, and, we can see what the Grizzlies, Zach Kleiman, had in mind. He's always done some things in terms of making some moves in the draft that a lot of people would not expect.
Yeah, obviously that was a big deal that sent Desmond Bane to Orlando, brings back the number 16 pick. We've seen a lot of draft night trades by the Memphis Grizzlies. I wouldn't count that out tonight. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about the number 16 pick, as we should, because that's the way that this thing sets up. But I don't think it's a certainty at all that the Grizzlies are going to pick at 16. I think there's a lot of things of intrigue here tonight that we should be looking out for as it relates to Memphis. I think one of them is, are they going to make a trade that's going to clear salary? Because that would potentially signal that they feel good about the future of Jaren Jackson Jr. and the fact that Jaren might sign an extension. So if that happens, I think that would be a positive outcome for Memphis. Maybe less fun from a draft intrigue standpoint, but certainly a positive outcome. And then also there's the possibility that, a bigger trade is on the table. They brought in contracts, circling Cole Anthony in particular, that are tradable, and they have draft assets. So there's potential for this team to move up tonight. There's potential for this team to move back tonight. We don't know what big-name players are out on the market, but there's a lot of players that are rumored to be made available across the league, especially from teams that have tax situations that they're uncomfortable with. Maybe the Grizzlies can get in on that action. So we will see what happens, but it certainly sets up to be a night that has a lot of potential and a lot of different outcomes that the Grizzlies could reach. And then, of course, we're going to spend all this time talking about trades. Maybe they'll just take somebody at 16 that turns out to be another all-rookie player.
All right, you don't think they're going to stand pat, do you, Colin?
I don't. I think, to Drew's point, it's very likely that, just a couple weeks ago, the Grizzlies didn't even have this pick. So in my eyes, it's like they're gambling with house money at this point. I think the likely scenario for what I would suggest after the exit interviews where General Manager Zach Kleiman said that they're not close enough, that they go out and get a veteran piece that makes the Grizzlies closer in their front. I mean, you already added veteran guys like KCP. They decide to continue to have him on the roster by opening day. Even Cole Anthony, whatever they decide to do his deal as well. So it's a lot of things that could happen tonight. And I think that the Grizzlies, we've already seen what happened just a day ago or 2 days ago with Kevin Durant being traded. The Grizzlies kind of kicked all of this off when it came to the offseason and getting things ready for tonight. So it should be a big, interesting night. Or, like you said, they might just try and go out and get a nice piece that could be another developmental piece for years to come.
All right.
One thing to add here, Travis. I know for a fact that this team has been preparing to make a pick in the first round, whether or not they had the pick in the first round. So, yes, we didn't know that the Grizzlies were going to have the 16th pick, but they've scouted these players that are in the middle of the draft. So that is something to consider. There may be a player that they really like in this draft, and if they do indeed end up making a pick, I think that would probably reflect that. But it just goes to show, if you're in the front office of an NBA team, you never know what could happen. But I suspect that this team will be very prepared to pick at number 16 or make a trade whether they knew it or not a couple weeks ago when Bane was dealt.
That's right. Well, here's a look really quickly at what the Grizzlies have done, a little draft history. Their last 5 picks in the draft. Back in 24, of course, they moved up in the draft to take Zach Edey, the big center from Purdue, at number 9. In 2022, they also moved up in the draft, get into the first round to get Jake LaRavia out of Wake Forest. And in 22, they took David Roddy from Colorado State at number 23 in the pick. In 21, they moved up in the draft. Notice a trend here to take Zaire Williams at number 10. And in 21, also, they got Santi Aldama at number 30, which a lot of people, hey, man, that's really doing some scouting and figuring out that this guy might be good. Santi Aldama has been really good for the Grizzlies. And also at number 30 in 2020, they took Desmond Bane, who definitely proved to be a hit in that draft. So the Grizzlies have been known to be movers and shakers. What they will do with this year, well, Michael Wallace mentioned 3 players already in his little scene setter for us. Nick Clifford from Colorado State, Carter Bryant from Arizona, the big man, and Cedric Coward, a wing from Washington State. And they got a chance to talk to him up there in New York on a pre-draft interview. Let's hear what they had to say.
I used all the feedback to my advantage to try and just get better. And I, of course, am my biggest critic, so I knew a lot of the things I needed to work on and get better at. And so I took that opportunity to go back, make the most of it, and get bigger and stronger, tighten my hand to make my jump shot more consistent, and then get bigger and stronger. Like, those were the biggest things that I wanted to focus on going back. But yeah, I'm definitely a guy that takes feedback and runs with it, especially when it means something.
Nick, it looked like you've been projected a lot around that, mid-first round range. One of the teams associated is the Memphis Grizzlies. Have you worked out for them, and what was that process like to get familiar with those kind of teams?
Yeah, I did work out for Memphis. It's a great organization. They got great staff over there, and new coach. So they're great people over there. But it was a good workout.
When you see yourself projected anywhere from, obviously late lottery and in that team's range, what does that tell you? Does that tell you have just as much a chance to go just about anywhere in this draft?
I try not to worry about that. I think for me, it's like you get an opportunity to play basketball at the highest level, and this is my dream. So I haven't looked at a mock draft in so long. Like, I couldn't tell you where I'm out on majority of these mock drafts. So I think for me, understanding, like, Nikola Jokic got drafted during the Taco Bell commercial, and he's the best player in the world right now. So it's like I just see myself kind of progressing day by day, and I know that I'm going to be one of the best players in this league. So that's my only focus, to get better every day.
Ultimately, when it comes to, just the steps I've went in my career, it's just to keep elevating. It's always on an upward track. You always want to take steps forward and up and never backwards.
Motto.
So what was that workout like? I think it was reported that you worked out in Memphis earlier this week, or maybe even Monday. Yesterday. Yeah. So coming from there to here, what was that workout like, and what did you sort of get out of it?
Oh, Memphis is a great place, man. I mean, it was my second time ever in Memphis. But to be able to just fly around anywhere and play basketball is great. Memphis had great people. It was really competitive. Good energy. The front office is great. The coaches were great. Everything. It's just what you want to surround yourself with: basketball, positive people, positive talking. They talk a little ish here and there, but I let my game do the talking, and that's the best part.
How much?
The vibes there from Cedric Coward out of Washington State about the Bluff City, and a lot of good insight from all the players that we were able to get a chance to talk to. Mike Wallace was able to get a chance to talk to up there in New York before the draft, but this is the final time now before the draft. We're going to put you guys on the spot. And it's our 24-second violation. What we've started here, we're going to put 24 seconds on the clock and let you guys give your final definition on what should the Grizzlies do with that number 16 pick coming up in tonight's NBA draft. We flipped the coin before the show. Drew Hill, you came up heads. You get to go first. And we're going to put 24 seconds on the clock for Drew Hill starting now.
I'm going to go quick. I think that the Grizzlies should, if they can, they should trade back with the Brooklyn Nets. They should take the number 19 pick. I believe Brooklyn also has number 22. They could potentially get off some salary in doing so, extend Jaren Jackson Jr., fix a lot of problems, and add another player. Who that player might be, I like a player like Cedric Coward, who has a little bit of mystery to him, who reminds me a little bit of Jalen Williams. I think that would be a good pick. I think that'd be a good outcome for Memphis.
All right, gets it in. Even with the move and everything that you're doing, you were able to get moved just in there and get that under the wire. Now let's go to Colin Cody. I was going to say Colin Coward. You're already here. Colin Cody from News Channel 3. What is your opinion? We're going to put 24 seconds back on the clock, the 24-second validation. What is your opinion on what the Grizzlies should do with pick number 16? Go.
Well, if the Grizzlies do go with that number 16 pick, I think that they need to go ahead and add more depth to that front court with Zach Edey being out and Brandon Clark obviously coming back from injury. So I would go with Asa Newell, someone that is a Georgia Bulldog, Southern guy. I think he might fit well, a good rim runner. And, playing with Jaren, he's going to develop quickly.
Oh, man, you got in there really fast.
Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah, you got the shot off in plenty of time and even had a chance to hit the rim and get a tip in there. All right, that's Colin Cody from News Channel 3. All right, it's my turn now as the moderator of the program. You can put 20 seconds on the clock right now. What should the Grizzlies do with the number 16 pick in the draft? I will go now. My opinion on what the Grizzlies should do, and I'm not a guru with all the numbers and everything, but I think whoever gets picked tonight will not be on the Grizzlies roster. He will be used as a trade piece to get a veteran in, and they may use a couple of their future draft picks that they acquired in that trade. That is what I think they will do. That is what I think they should do. This team does not need to get any younger. Period, with a T. And that's my opinion. All differing opinions here on this. That's what we really like here on Grizz Beat. We'll see how that plays out tonight. We'll also see coming up in our next segment on Grizz Beat, we will see live from New York the great Michael Wallace, the guru of Grind City Media himself. He is in the bowels of the Barclays Center right now, and he's going to tell us his insights on what's going on before tonight's draft. We'll do all that when we come back in our next segment of Grizz Beat.
Creed. By overwhelming demand, the Summer of '99 tour returns. July 27th, FedEx Forum. With very special guest, Daughtry. And Mammoth. Tickets on sale now at LiveNation.com. Don't miss Creed with Daughtry and Mammoth. The Summer of '99 tour. Shinedown. Dance Kid Dance Tour. Live in Memphis. FedEx Forum, Saturday, August 30th. With special guests, Bush and Morgan Wade. Get tickets now at LiveNation.com. Shinedown, live in concert. For more, visit Shinedown.com.
Tony Allen joining us. I believe Hey!
Young TA with a fresh chop. That boy sliced today, boy. You say, that boy got the tape on the side? Okay, TA.
Hey, and I like how you blurred out your background so we can't see that La Quinta this time.
Can't see the hole in the wall, TA.
Can't see the hole in the wall.
The Chris Vernon Show, live on weekdays at noon on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
There are futures for Aaron Judge possibly hitting 400. Hitting 400 at the All-Star break, plus 600.
Oh, wow.
To have a 400 batting average in the regular season, plus 3,800. To win the Triple Crown is only plus 145.
I don't think he's going to hit 400 for the season.
I don't either. I that would be
ridiculous.
Yes, ridiculous.
The Odds Couple, live at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Hey guys, tune in for the Grind City Media Draft Show presented by Southland Casino that's coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. You can hear from Grind City Media personalities as they react to draft picks, trades, and more. All you got to do to see it, download the Grind City Media app and subscribe to the Grind City Media YouTube channel today for all your Grizzlies draft coverage, the pre-draft show and the draft show coming up tonight, 7 o'clock right here on Grind City Media. And coming up right now, let's go all the way to New York City, Brooklyn to be exact, the Barclays Center tonight, the scene of tonight's NBA draft, the first round, and that is where the guru of Grind City Media himself, Mike Wallace, as my grandson likes to call him, is up there in the bowels of the Barclays Center. You're not out on the main floor, Mike, but you are there within earshot of what's going to be going on tonight, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Can you guys hear me okay? If you can,
Yeah, we got you
I'm
good.
gonna keep talking. Okay,
Good.
so I'll keep talking. Yes, I'm in what's considered the Barclays Center Media Workroom. We're right on the other side of the wall from where all the action is going to go down. This is the circuit behind me where the players are going to be taken from station to station after they come off the draft stage. So this is pretty much where we are right now. This is the old practice court for the Brooklyn Nets. So good to be here, man. A lot of activity, a lot of action, a lot of trades, a lot of rumors already circulating. And I'm just looking forward to staying inside and getting all the action coming our way.
All right, very good. Let's go to our panel here. Drew Hill from the Drew Hill, you're going to talk a little bit. You've told us what you thought. Ask Mike. You got some questions what he may think about what's going on in tonight's draft and what the scene is like up there.
Mike, I'm just curious. Do you think, we spent a lot of time talking about the Jaren extension, obviously this offseason, and I think today is kind of a day where there's potential for maneuvering that could help get that extension done long term. Do you think that if the Grizzlies were to make a maneuver, it'd be a positive sign that they could get, if they were to clear cap space, I should say, that they could get a Jaren extension done this summer?
Well, one of the things that you already, you know quite well, Drew, you've been here, you've been around, you talk to these guys, you talk to people around the league as well, too. And what we know is that no matter what the circumstances are, Zach Kleiman is active on draft day, no matter what. For 5 straight years, 6 straight years, he's been able to make deals one way or another to move either up in the draft or back in the draft, identifying players or even using draft capital to move off of players to position the team even better. So it's one of those things where I expect that to happen too. I agree with you guys. As enticing as the number 16 pick is, I still think until I see it being selected or used, it's an asset for me. But I do think this, though. I know the motivation is to get Jaren as close as you can on as much money of a contract as it can be. I think the Grizzlies are pushing that way more than Jaren's side is from that standpoint. Jaren doesn't have as much incentive to do it now as the Grizzlies would like, as the Grizzlies do. But having said that, this is going to be something where if they don't get it done this summer or in the next couple of weeks or next couple of days even, it's not all hope lost. It's just economics. And I think Jaren is going to position himself for a really lucrative contract one way or another, whether it gets done this summer or next summer or however you look at it. But I don't think it will linger much longer.
And Mike, quick question for you. So obviously we know that this team has some holes that needs to fill with injuries to the front court and the depth in the back court. If they were to select a player tonight, who would you see would be the best fit for the Grizzlies?
Being around all of these guys yesterday, obviously Cooper Flag, commands a different level of attention. If you felt like it was LeBron James walking through the media circuit when Cooper Flag did his interview, like 30 cameras were set up in that small cramped station. And it's funny because, everyone knew the number 1 pick, he's number 1 pick. There's no suspense around that. But then when you look at some of the other guys in the room, there are going to be a lot of wing players that could potentially be stars. The guy that I've been most impressed with from what I've seen and what I've heard from other scouts, and Carter Bryant is a blank canvas. He's a legit 6'6", 6'6.5". He's built like an athlete. He can shoot potentially. He says that he models his game after Devin Booker. He played at Arizona, and obviously he's watched Devin Booker play for the Phoenix Suns. For whatever reason, that's the guy to me that seems to be the most interesting. But again, I don't know if he'll be there when the Grizzlies are picking. So, we'll see what happens. There's a lot of, scuttlebutt around, a guy when you talk about, Cedric Coward. He obviously had the last minute follow-up, workout with the Grizzlies on Monday. And we'll see where that goes. You know what I mean? The Grizzlies will have options. I also do like, Johan Bernier. I love the 6'11" big man from France, who also happened to have somewhat of a relationship with Grizzlies interim coach Tuomas Isalo, because Tuomas coached in France the last few years. So he knows a little bit about, the kind of prospect that Bernier has been. And we'll see what happens when we get to 16.
Jay is one of those dudes that's got a lot of length, which is what the Grizzlies need. They've got some really good athletes, or they need to get more athletic and they need to get more length, and he might be one to fit that bill. But Mike, I want to ask you: do you think that whoever puts the cap on for the Grizzlies tonight is going to be wearing that cap either at the end of the night or sometime in the next couple of days? Do you think there's a really good possibility that they might be drafting for someone and trade that pick in order to get someone else?
I mean, they could. They could, but it's not like they don't need other assets. I mean, they need young players. They need to continue to fill what you have there, because I mean, Desmond Bane is gone, and Tavius Caldwell-Pope, who they got in the trade, is 32 years old. So right now, who's going to be shooting guard? Who's going to be a guy after Jalen Wells where you can show that you can count on in the backcourt? So I do think if you can address that, here's what I think. I think they've identified 3-and-D wing shooting as one need, and I think they've identified low post rebounding, defensive presence, screen setter as another need. Whatever they don't get addressed tonight, they'll address the other part in free agency when it starts in a few more days. So I wouldn't be surprised if they traded it, but I also think that there's going to be a lot of excitement around whoever they pick, because as Jonathan Givony has said, the person that's available at pick number 9 could also be available at pick 16 or pick 20. So after you get past the first 8 guys, it flattens out. So you're going to get a lottery level talent at 16, just because it's all about, beauty is going to be in the eye of the beholder, with so many different young players, foreign players, and versatile players available between 9 and 20.
Mike, are you nervous at all that OKC and San Antonio are sitting there right in front of the Grizzlies? I mean, it does feel like, those are 3 teams that draft extremely well, and it might be a fight between those 3 to get one player,
No, that's true. San Antonio has a couple of bites at that apple before you even get to the Grizzlies pick, right? So, we saw what they did last year and ended up drafting the rookie of the year in that class. They didn't have the number 1 or number 2 pick at all. You know what I mean? They picked sort of towards the middle and ended up with a guy that ended up being, an impactful guy. The Grizzlies picked, almost in midway through the second round and got another guy that finished 3rd in rookie of the year voting. So yeah, San Antonio is smart, but they're also in that asset, collection stage, and there's still rumors and murmurs that they could still get into the Giannis Antetokounmpo business. And if you're the Grizzlies, you're looking around in your division and you're like, wow, we just saw Houston go all in. We just saw, Dallas has got the number 1 pick. Kyrie re-signed with them. Gafford is another guy that committed to a contract that, they're going to be formidable with Anthony Davis and everybody when they finally get healthy. And then San Antonio is a team that can be the most improved team in the league last season and make a Detroit Pistons type jump. So if you're the Grizzlies, man, you better be careful, because it's not out of the equation that you might be the 4th best team in your own division, let alone where you are in the Western Conference. So they got to stay in this arms race and make moves that are going to continue to keep them competitive for the next couple of years.
One of those moves, last year they took Zach Edey at number 9, and a lot of people were thinking that he would be later in the draft. They took a chance on him, and as Michael just alluded, he ended up being 3rd overall in the Rookie of the Year balloting. You think they could be looking somebody in that 2022 range that they might move them up instead of like moving back in the draft? They just may take that guy because that's the guy they like. What do you think, Michael?
Well, I mean, they've made some of those moves that, some of them have worked out and some of them haven't, right? So, you go back to Zaire Williams, right? That was a guy that Zach Kleiman early on in his, running of the Grizzlies front office, he went and said, look, this guy may not be projected by many people to be a top 10 pick, but we see him as a top 10 guy, and he's a guy we identified. When they made that pick to get Zaire at number 10, they gave up a chance to get, I believe it was Herb Jones. It was one of the Pelicans wing players. That they ended up trading out of in order to move up to get Zaire Williams. That didn't necessarily work out. It did bring back Steven Adams and Zaire in that trade, the same trade. So you got a veteran big and a wing. But the wing you picked at number 10 didn't necessarily work out when you moved up. They stood pat and went unconventional and got Zach Edey at number 9 last year. Not a lot of mock drafts or any league officials had Zach Edey going top 10 last year. No one. So the Grizzlies, and they made it work, and it turned out to be a pick that worked out for them as well, too. So, again, Zach Kleiman has a unique way of going about looking at the draft. He doesn't go with a lot of conventional wisdom. He believes in who his front office believes in, and they go after him, whether, regardless of what the pick is. If it's the player they want, it doesn't matter what pick it is that they have to use to get him, they'll go after him. So again, where the Grizzlies are right now, as Drew said, there's a financial incentive to not necessarily load up on money when you need to try to make some extension moves. But there's also an opportunity if you trade into this draft to get a middle first round pick, you're going to have 3 more of them that you got in that trade for Desmond Bane too. So this is just the first of many bites at the apple to get a player that's going to stick in the first round.
All right, that sounds really good. And talking about sticking, one thing that as we go around the association now, and talking about the just completed NBA Finals, the Indiana Pacers decided to stick with their star point guard, Haliburton, and even after he had the sore calf, and boom, it turned out that sore calf turned into a torn Achilles. Well, Tyrese Haliburton talked a little bit about that in a tweet that he released today. He asked, was it worth it to keep playing on that strained calf when it ended up turning out that, man, boom, he got the Achilles tear and was out for the Game 7, which the Pacers eventually lost, and Oklahoma City got the title. This is what Tyrese tweeted. I think Kobe, as in Kobe Bryant, said it best: when in this same situation, there are far greater issues, challenges in the world than a torn Achilles. Stop feeling sorry for yourself, find the silver lining, and get to work with the same belief, same drive, and same conviction as ever. And that's exactly right. I will do everything in my power to get back right. That's Tyrese Haliburton's feeling right now. And I will ask you, Drew Hill from the Daily Memphian, what do you think about the decision to play, the team's decision to play him when they knew he had that strained calf and was doing everything possible he could to try and get back on the court?
I think, like everybody else, I just feel terrible for Tyrese Haliburton. I think he was kind of in a lose-lose situation, right? Because if you're not out on the court in Game 7, there's going to be a lot said about you and your toughness, whether or not the world knew what kind of risk he was going to put himself in. So, and then, if he does play, the potential for the worst case scenario can happen, and that's exactly what happened for him. So I feel terrible for the guy. In the end, this is a very unique situation, and it's Game 7, and I honestly think any player would do it, right? If you asked any NBA player and you said, look, you're hurt, there's potential for the worst, but it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals and you have a chance to go win a championship, the first of your career, I would guess there'd be very, very few players that wouldn't raise their hand and say, no, I want to play in the game. So I think they did the right thing.
Absolutely. And I mean, Jarvis, you've been in the locker room. Let your coach tell you, hey, Jarvis, I don't think we need you in the backfield tonight.
I don't know. My coach would have told me, no, you go get hurt and go get in the tub. Yeah, we'll get somebody else in there.
It was a different era for sure. But, I think whether he tore it or not, I mean, that's a dream scenario. Only so many people get to play in Game 7. That was the first Game 7 in 9 years. And we saw how competitive that series was. I mean, the fact that Indiana made it there to begin with after the season that they had, I mean, before All-Star break, I remember when they walked into this building and, the Grizzlies, they put on it looked like the Globetrotters against them. I wouldn't hold it against them at all. And I know he's just not batting an eye about his decision. Like, if I could play in a Game 7 and if just be on the battlefield with my boys, that's all you ask for, the opportunity to compete. So, yeah, you lay it out on the line, but that's the risk worth taking.
All right, Michael Wallace in New York, in New York at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. I want to ask you, what do you think from the team perspective? I think Haliburton's injury was the third calf strain Achilles in this playoffs, this season. I think in this playoffs where you got guys go down getting hurt. Should the organization have held him out, not listened to the player and said, no, look, because now Hallie's going to be out. He'll be out all of next season. This is a 12-month injury. You don't just come back over the summer. What do you think, Michael Wallace?
Yeah, great point, man. What Colin said is true. Like, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And, Tyrese Haliburton said it, even from the bed after surgery. I would do this same thing again and again and again, even if he knew what the consequences were. And, you gotta applaud his heart for doing that. I do think medically, we've seen now what these calf strains can lead to. It's almost definite that you're going to pop something, whether it was Dame Lillard, whether it was, Jason Tatum, and now Tyrese Haliburton. James Wiseman popped his Achilles at the beginning of the season for the Pacers. I think that's the second or third player that had an Achilles injury for the Pacers just this season, and people forgot about that kind of stuff. So you can go all the way back to Kevin Durant in the finals. I was at that game in Toronto, as a fan watching them in that game when he blew his Achilles against the Raptors for the Warriors. And at that stage, that has to be somebody medically coming in and saying, hey, this is an injury that you can't, it's not worth playing with. And no matter what the circumstances are, you don't send a guy out there if he has a fractured leg, right? And you just say, okay, what's going to happen? He'll probably do something and break it. Then it becomes like at that certain point with calf strains now with NBA players and the pace and the demands on their bodies, yeah, that's one where you got to medically just say he's ruled out and save the player from himself in that situation.
Words of wisdom from the great Michael Wallace. Let's skip now to Boston, where the Celtics have made a big trade. They traded Kristaps Porzingis, and they also traded Drew Holiday, the great guard that they had. And, it's like, wow, they got championships out of him, but is the championship run done for the Boston Celtics? And that's a question. Are they done as a title contender after trading away two of those guys? And then, of course, they lost their other great forward to the same kind of injury, an Achilles injury, who will be gone all of next season. Are they just tanking it for next season, knowing that they'll try to come back and after next season with a chance to make another run at the title? Drew Hill will ask you.
I certainly think that they have to anticipate that next year's not going to be as smooth as years in the past. I think the Celtics are an interesting case because they were a second apron team, and it just goes to show. I mean, they're not the only second apron team that's now trying to get out of the second apron. You look at Minnesota, you look at Phoenix, and it's the price you pay. They got a championship out of it. I think they would do everything the same because they did win a title. But it is going to be really difficult in the NBA in the years after, once you hit the second apron, to navigate and make additions to your team. You better be really, really sure of what you have if that's what you're going to do. And I think the Celtics are a good example of that. But no, of course, I don't think the Celtics are going to be as good next year as they've been this recent run.
Mm-hmm. Colin, you think they're tanking it because they know that they're, hey, look, we got this guy out. Drew's going to make $1 billion and he's 35 years old. Do you want to do that?
Absolutely, I think so. I mean, just to try to get back on the right side of your budget and your wallet. I mean, for a team that kind of put all their chips in a couple years ago, that's what they wanted. They wanted that 18th banner, and they got it. But you also have to pay the price for that. And everybody, obviously, now is probably going to try to lean towards whatever this OKC model is. Everybody doesn't have a Sam Presti, but to have the assets and to have a cheap core, that's obviously the most fiscally way to sustain, I guess, your success in the modern NBA. So, I think, they're just trying to level their bank account at this point.
Hey, Michael Wallace up there in the Barclays Center, New York side of the draft tonight. Do you think that the other teams will follow this model knowing, okay, we win? Or do you think the Celtics even make this move if they hadn't lost their great player to an Achilles injury?
Yeah, I don't think they make this drastic of moves. Like, there's multiple moves now when you talk about Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. They might have parted with one of them just to offset it a little bit to get under that second apron. But if Tatum didn't get hurt, you still have Tatum and Brown, and you have the ability to be competitive in the East, right? And they were right there. So because you're going to lose a year, I don't think you go pay second apron penalties for a season where you're not even, going to be in the mix for deep run in the NBA playoffs. Now, having said that, it's a lot of scuttlebutt going around right now that they might be one of the teams that are dealing heading into the draft tonight. Is Brown going to be available? Is Jaylen Brown going to be available from that standpoint? Are they going to make a move with Derek White now, to get back into the top 10? So Boston won a championship. Brad Stevens proved his point. He has the backing. It's a new ownership group now that's going to try to recoup some of the valuation that they had to pay. I think they paid almost $6 billion for that franchise. And you just can't continue to financially make those kind of investments when you're not going to win a championship in the next year. So, they did what they had to do, and now the league has to figure out a way to try to get some of those assets that Boston's going to be maneuvering with.
All right, and now we move on to our second 24-second validation of Grizz Beat today, and this one's a good one. It involves the Grizzlies, and here's what the projection is. The media is projecting the Grizzlies at number 10 in the West next season. Is that fair? Or is that foul? Is it absolutely fair or is it absolutely foul? Our panel here is looking at that question and pondering. I'm going to start with Colin Cody from News Channel 3. You're up first with 24 seconds on the clock. Fair or foul? 24-second validation. Grizzlies number 10 in the West next season? Go.
That's fair. I respect that opinion from media members, but also I don't think that a lot of people have continue to give Memphis the praise that this city and this organization's had for the players on this team. So I think that, yeah, they could be 10, but don't be surprised. We just saw Indy make it all the way to the chip, and nobody predicted them to make that type of run either.
All right, very good. Gets it in with 2 seconds to spare. Let's go to Drew. Let's go to Drew Hill from the Daily Memphian right now. Fair or foul? Grizz 10th in the West next season. Go.
Yeah, it is fair right now. Right now, it is fair. The Grizzlies have more maneuvering to do. They have the tools in order to make a better contender here. They have tradable contracts. They have star players. They just have to find a way to put it together. So as of right now, it's fair. But get back to me at the end of the offseason, and I might have a different answer.
Drew Hill putting a caveat on it, and he gets in under the wire. Can we do this with Michael Wallace in New York? You got a stopwatch there on your watch, right? Or you could just do it straight off the top of your head. Fair or foul, Michael Wallace? Grizz 10th in the West next season. What do you think? Go.
I think it's fair. When you go through the pecking order of the teams right now, and you see the Grizzlies were second and it slipped all the way to 8th. With a healthy team for the most part last year. So there's 2 other spots. I mean, you got to figure who's going to get better. San Antonio is going to get better. You know, you look around and, you know, obviously Dallas is going to be back, you know, and then it just starts from the top all the way down. Houston is going to make a run. The Lakers and the Clippers are there. So Golden State is there. I think that's a fair right now.
Gets it in there. Great job, Michael Wallace. All right, we'll put Jarvo on the clock right now. Fair or foul? Absolutely fair or foul. Grizz 10th in the West? Go. I think I have to agree with Drew Hill from the Daily Memphian. Wow. Ask me later. You ask me right now, yes, because the Grizz did slip to 8th, and they traded away one of their top scorers. We don't know if they're going to get it scoring yet. The Grizzlies are a work in progress right now, but that work in progress could yield some great results. But as of right now, the number 10 spot, as long as they're in the playoffs, I think the Grizzlies will be okay. I would think more around 8 though, or 7 even. That's my opinion. Okay, so there we go. That's all 3 of us. We got a little bit of differing opinion, but we're all kind of on the same track, and we'll see how it plays out. But it's like, the asterisk, more to come, right? You get an incomplete from the teacher right now, because we won't know until free agency is complete, and then they get through training camp, see who's healthy. That's a whole lot of factors go into this deal. Got one more break here on Grizzbeat. We'll be back in just a minute with more. Stay tuned.
Let's face it, there's a lot of trash talk in basketball, but the great teams let their performance do the talking. Like Ford F-150 with Pro Power on board, a class-exclusive industry-first feature that turns your truck into a mobile generator and leaves the competition speechless. Ford F-150, official truck of the Grizzlies. Greatness starts here at your Mid-South Ford dealer. Class is full-size pickups under 8,500 pounds, GBWR.
Murray State is going to the College World Series. It's easy for me to pick a team because 1, I love an underdog. 2, I hate UCLA, and I see that opening round matchup. And 3, we are connected to the school's most famous alumni, Ja Morant of Murray State.
Tune in to the Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt, live every weekday at 8 a.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
The Tigers are going to play in November in the Bahamas, the Baha Mar tournament, and the other teams expected to be there. Purdue, Wake Forest, and possibly Texas Tech. So Texas Tech's going to be good. Purdue's going to be good. If you don't have a roster that puts you in that same conversation, it could be a tough trip to the Bahamas.
Yep.
The Gary Parrish Show, live on weekdays at 10 a.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
There are futures for Aaron Judge possibly hitting 400. Hitting 400 at the All-Star break, plus 600.
Oh, wow.
To have a 400 batting average in the regular season, plus 3,800. 3,800. To win the Triple Crown is only plus 145.
I don't think he's going to hit 400 for the season.
I don't either. I that would be
ridiculous.
Yes, ridiculous.
The Odds Couple, live at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Hey guys, Junior Grizzlies basketball camps presented by Ortho South are back for their best summer yet. Register your 6 to 14-year-old hooper for one of our summer sessions to hone their skills and experience all the fun and excitement of an NBA team. Campers receive specialized training from Junior Grizzlies coaches and swag packs, including a reversible jersey, full-size basketball, beach towel, socks, and more. Registration is open now for camps all around the Mid-South area, including Memphis, Jonesboro, Little Rock, and Tupelo. Register your kid now for Junior Grizzlies basketball camp. You see the QR code, put your phone up there, take that snap, and you can register your child today. All right, back here for the final segment of Grizz Beat, and here we're going to talk about a couple of players that the Grizzlies acquired in the Desmond Bay trade. KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Cole Anthony. Of course, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, he is a two-time NBA champion with the Lakers in 2020 and the Nuggets in 2023. Both of those not too long ago. He averaged 11.2 points, 3 rebounds, and 1.2 steals per game over his 12 NBA seasons. Now, he shot 40.6% on three-pointers as recently as 2 seasons ago. Did not shoot that well with Orlando last season, but as you see, he is a career 40% shooter over his career. And so, if indeed he will be on the Grizzlies when they start the season, what do you see, Drew Hill, KCP's role here in Memphis?
Yeah, I think he's likely a starter. I think he is a veteran on this team.
If he's not a starter, something's wrong.
Yeah, that would be correct. I think he's a veteran on this team that this team needs. A mature voice in the locker room, a player that's going to play on both ends of the court. Defensively, I think he's a really key piece for this team. So, yeah, I have high expectations for KCP as he comes into the Grizzlies. I think that he really matches what the team wants to do from a defensive perspective, and so I think that's a big plus here. And then as far as just, like, the overall fit goes, like, he seems, if you watched his podcast, he seems genuinely excited to be part of this group and embrace the city, and I think that everybody else is going to embrace him relatively quickly. So all big pluses there with KCP. I'm excited to see him in a Grizzlies uniform. Of course, we've been talking all day about trades. It's not impossible, but he seems like a good fit and a guy that the Grizzlies should be interested in keeping into next season.
All right, Cole Anthony is the other member of the trade grouping with KCP. Cole Anthony, I think, we can see right here, he averaged 12.5 points, 4.3 rebounds a game, 3.8 assists in his 5 NBA seasons. Started 22 games last season with Orlando. He was the number 15 pick overall in 2020 from North Carolina. And Colin Cody, what do you see in Cole Anthony in case he is actually on the team when the season begins? Now, his contract, I think he's at $13.1 million. His might be the most tradable to try to get another asset if they want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough for me because obviously I think Scotty is definitely going to be on this team going into next season. So they kind of are the same role of that backup point guard role. But if there is a world that exists that, Cole Anthony is on the Grizzlies by the opening day, that I think that, he brings another defensive edge that comes off the bench. Obviously, I think a lot of people upsold him when he got drafted in 2020, and he hadn't had the career that he's wanted or everyone thought that he would, being the 15th pick. But I also think he's developed other aspects of his game where he just seems like a dog. He doesn't seem like he got that type of fighter, that quit in him. We've seen he had like 50 points like a year or two ago. Like he has the capabilities to score, but that's not necessarily the role we would need him in. I think he knows a role and he sticks to it because we saw the success that he had in Orlando over the last 2 years.
All right, let's go to the guru, Michael Wallace, in New York to wrap it up for us on what you think of both these players' roles will be in Memphis. KCP and Cole Anthony. One is a wing and one is a backup point, who would be literally the third backup here in Memphis. Michael Wallace, the guru, you.
I had a chance to hop on a conference call this week, and Bobby Marks, ESPN's front office insider, former NBA executive, talked about how both of those guys are two productive players. I mean, they're two players who aren't afraid of the moment. If the Grizzlies and Bobby, what he said was he referred back to Zach Kleiman's comments at the end of the season in that season exit interview, where he talked about needing dogs and needing guys that aren't afraid of the moment and guys that will step up and be unafraid to hold everyone accountable. With Cole Anthony, you certainly know he leads with his mouth and his game. He's not afraid to say what he needs to say. As Colin said, he's a streaky scorer. He can give you an extra ball handler who can create on his own and create for teammates, which was something that the Grizzlies were sorely lacking when John Morant wasn't on the floor. And then Kentavious Caldwell Pope, he looked at last year as an outlier. That was a down season for him. He is 32, so he's going to have to get back quickly to being what he was maybe with Denver. But even in that, if he just gives you solid defense and the ability to knock down 2 or 3 threes a game, and you also play that alongside of Jalen Wells, I like both of these guys, with KCP being your starting shooting guard and Cole Anthony being that extra guy that you can play alongside Ja, behind Ja, with Scotty. You just get small, but I do think you get dynamic. So I see a way where both of those guys are here if there's not a deal made for either one of them moving forward.
All right, well, let's go to the lightning round right now. Here's the calendar for what's coming up for the Grizzlies. I think next we've got free agency coming up Wednesday. The first round of the draft is tonight, and then round number 2 is tomorrow night. Then Monday, free agency negotiations begin, quote unquote. They've already started. July 5th, the Grizzlies open their Salt Lake City Summer League play, and then July 6th is the official start of NBA free agency signings. And then July 10 through 20, we've got the Grizzlies at the Las Vegas Summer League. So we still got a big crowded summer for the Memphis Grizzlies. You got a favorite thing that you're looking forward to, Drew Hill, out of the calendar there?
No, I love going to Summer League. Summer League's always a blast.
You be in Vegas? You be in Salt Lake City, or both?
Both, I believe. I think maybe not for the whole time, but at least for part of both. And it's just so much fun. Like, especially Salt Lake. I know everybody wants to go to Vegas,
right,
but I would say if you are a Grizzlies fan looking for the most personal experience with the Grizzlies, Salt Lake's a great place to go watch the rookies play their first few games, and it's pretty easy to connect there, and I just think it's a great experience overall. So really looking forward to Summer League. Should be some fun players on the roster for the Grizzlies too. Obviously no Zach Edey, that's a bummer, but still a good team that they're going to get to put out there.
Yeah, America's got a hub there, so you can go straight from here to there if you want to do that. Colin Cody, what's your favorite part of the calendar?
It's going to be Summer League too, but it's also like just going back to last summer, like we had watching that team, they were so fun with Zach Edey, that tip in he had against Utah. Mm-hmm. We saw Jalen Wells, a player that nobody knew about coming into this season, and Scottie Pippen Jr., obviously, who should have been
the
MVP of Summer League, but we know how that goes. Politics, they was politicking against Scottie. So, I look forward to seeing some great second-round picks by the Grizzlies show up and perform, because that just seems like that's where Memphis kind of makes their stamp going into the next season.
All right, Michael Wallace, you got a favorite part of the calendar coming up? You like Summer League or you like free agency?
Hey, you know what? First and foremost, I got to give Drew Hill applause, man. This is a guy that's grown up now. He sounds like a guy that's ready to buy a house, got a baby on the way, just got married. That maturity of knowing that, hey, Vegas is Vegas, but let me go with the tranquility of Salt Lake City and prefer that experience over the Vegas, rabid nightlife. So I applaud him for that. That's smart, because I've always felt that way. I thought it was just me. I said, look, give me Salt Lake City anytime over Vegas as a Summer League experience for all the reasons that he mentioned there. Me, I'm always going to be a free agency guy, just because you get to see how the rest of the league stacks up. There's going to be a couple of moves that are still going to be made free agency-wise, where you can see the tip of the league balancing from one side to the other. What is the East going to do? Because right now it looks like the East is just going to concede next season to the West because of all the injury recoveries. What's Giannis going to do? What are a couple of other big free agents going to do from that standpoint? These teams are loading up. What are the Grizzlies going to do? If they can get this deal done with Jaren, or even if they can't, what other moves can they make with free agencies and other trade windows opening up to put them in position to be competitive? Because right now, it looks like the West is pulling ahead. The teams that the Grizzlies thought they were ahead of have gotten stronger. Whereas this trade on the surface right now didn't make the Grizzlies better tomorrow. So they have to have a follow-up to get back to where they need to get to avoid falling too far back. So I'm always a free agency guy. What about you, Jarvis? Listen,
Hey.
listen. I want to hear your voice. I want to hear your opinion on Kentavious Caldwell Pope and Cole Anthony. We got a few minutes, and also, what do you think about the calendar coming up too?
Okay, first of all, let's go with all right. Let's go with the calendar since we just talked about that. I got to agree with you, Michael Wallace. Free agency is most important. The most fun thing for me, I won't be going to either spot because I got to stay here and do my granddad duties, picking up the kids from camp and all that stuff. But I think that's the most fun thing is watching the rookies play and run around and see what so-and-so looks like here and there on our team, the Grizzlies, and on the other teams. But the most important thing is free agency because that's when we'll finally start to get a little roadmap to see what the Grizzlies will look like when they come to camp in the fall. Kentavious Caldwell Pope, I used to hate him when he was with the Lakers because I don't like the Lakers anyway, and they end up winning the doggone title. He was one of those guys that's a thorn in the side. You know, you don't really notice him until all of a sudden he's hitting a dagger three from the corner or he's getting a big rebound or a tip. He's got the wingspan and the length that the Grizzlies need at that position that they have not had. And on Cole Anthony, I think that, wow, you know, this is a guy that kind of reminds me a little bit of the point guard that the Grizzlies had that went to Washington. His name just escapes me right now. That he was the backup point. Yeah. He kind of reminds me because he's a guy that he could probably start in a couple of places. He makes enough money that you would think he'd be a starter. I don't know that he's going to be here, but I like him as that guard because he's like really an insurance policy in case, you know, John misses. He's missed like 25 or so games every year. You know you'll have another guy that can at least handle the ball and run the club. Because when Ja is out and you don't have Scotty, I'm very confident, as Colin Cody said, in what Scottie Pippen can do as the number 2 guard on this team. And he showed it in the playoffs. You know, you say, regular season. No, he showed it against the best team in the league, OKC, coming up with 30 points a couple of times. I think he had 30 in one game, 29 in the last game that went down to the buzzer that the Grizzlies had a chance to tie at the buzzer off a tip-in. So I think that I don't know that he'll be here, but if you're going to have a backup guard like that, I think that, bring him in because I know he is a dog and they're looking for more dogs on the Grizzlies. Does that satisfy you, Michael? Does that?
Oh, absolutely. You've seen this team and this franchise longer than all of us combined. So, you know, your insight is valuable. You speak for the fans, but you also speak from the heart and you know what you're talking about, man. So, yeah, that's a good luxury to have if you're talking about 3 ball handlers in Ja, Scotty, and potentially Cole Anthony. If he can stick, I think you're set there. And then you can address some other things if you want to hold on to it.
All right. Well, Michael Wallace, the guru of Grind City Media, we appreciate you being up there in Barclays Center in Brooklyn, bringing us all the news up there. And you will be on the show tonight, right? On the Grind City Media show tonight on Draft Central, right? You'll be.
Yes, absolutely. 7 o'clock right here on these very same Grind City Media YouTube channels and all of our other social formats. And there's a special guest that'll be in the building tonight as well. Jalen Wells, I'm hearing, is going to be working the circuit here, helping out some of the coverage of the NBA draft. And, you know, it'll be good to see him around here because he was just in this environment just a year ago as a second-round pick. So I hope to catch up with him as well, too, here later on this evening, going into the draft coverage tonight.
Yeah, my neighbor down on Mud Island. It's good to see that he's getting up there. Of course, I do have to give a shout-out to the Grizzlies organization. They opened a new Grizz Den Rec Center at the Streets Ministries just across the way here downtown. Jay Huff was in attendance. T.A. Tony Allen, first team all defense, was there to play with the kids and had a lot of video games and pool and all kind of other card games and stuff. They even have like a little recording center for some of the kids that want to get, try their luck scratching on the 1s and 2s there with the wheels of steel. A lot of fun to be had over there, and it's another example of how the Grizzlies have been great right here in the Memphis community in giving back, which has been their stated purpose ever since they arrived in the Bluff City. We want to thank our guests here today on our illustrious panel, Drew Hill, who had to put the paintbrush down from painting his new house, and he's got the kid on the way, and it's a fabulous thing. And congratulations, by the way, on having everything, all your success. Hope you have a great flight out to Salt Lake City, and you get a chance to get away for a little while. And you tell the wife you're going to Salt Lake, but she's really going to Vegas.
Well, thank you, Jarvis. I appreciate it. Anytime I get to come in here with Mike, Jarvis, guys like Colin, it's an honor. So thank you.
Hey, we appreciate it. Colin Cody from News Channel 3. You can catch him out every weekend there, and we really appreciate you being in here, Colin.
Thank you.
And tell your dad, Mac Cody, Mac 10 Pistol, who was a great former Tiger receiver, that one of my favorites said, hey, look, man, all love, nothing but love for him. We really appreciate it. And, of course, Michael Wallace up in Brooklyn. And we will be back for another edition of Grizz Beat on Grind City Media as we get into free agency and all that stuff. Check your local listings to see when we'll be back. It's going to be a great one. Watch tonight, 7 o'clock, the Grizzlies draft show, 7 o'clock right here on Grind City Media. Until next time, we'll see you right back here on Grizz Beat.
That's game. Thanks for running with us for another episode of Grizz Beat. Join us each Wednesday at Grind City Media for all the latest insight and analysis on the Grizzlies.